look at that. It's a slide. It's an actual living, breathing slide. It didn't actually just say my name. Well, didn't say my handle. It actually had my real name, which you are not allowed to know. If you already know, fine. If you don't, it's also fine. Hi, I'm Druidspire. I'm going to read to you my presentation from Mythmoot, which was, as you can see, entitled Middle-earth and Video Games Over the Years, the Light, the Dark, and the Gray. However, I'm going to wait until the top of the hour, because I'd originally said, oh, we're going to stream this at 8 o'clock, and I'm like, you know what? If I start right at 8, then people will be late. So I figured if I start the stream now, then people will wander in and get the notifications and, you know, be ready. So, so I also, for this stream, I'm calling it the extended edition because not only am I going to read the text that I originally wrote with a couple of addendums and updates, because there's a couple of pieces of information in the original presentation that were specific to Mythmoot. Like a reference to one of the other keynote speakers, for example. Well, one of the keynote speakers, not one of the other, as if I was a keynote speaker. I wasn't. My face was sure as heck wasn't on the website, but that's fine. Well, while we're rolling along getting to that point, however, I can discuss the adventure of streaming at Mythmoot and what it was like being at Mythmoot for the second time, but having it be so different than it was last year because, hello, COVID. My name is not Fred. That would be Fredless. Yay, Killam, Snorblom in a wayward plane. And Killam, thank you for the resub. I really do appreciate you for that. And I'm sure we're going to get some of the usual shenanigan people in here. TD, I'm sure will show up at some point and stuff like that because TD does that sort of thing. So I'm under the just chatting category because I'm not just going to be Lord of the Rings online tonight. We're going to talk about all kinds of other games that you may not have been aware of, where most folks were actually licensed to use the thing and some folks were not. And we're going to go visit one of the games that's still floating around that is not authorized. We're going to go say hi, see if anybody's there. There was somebody there the last time I connected the day before Mythmoot, so we'll see. In the meantime, I also have the reason I'm calling this the extended edition, I'm not going to read a lot more of text because I didn't actually trim a lot to make it fit within the 20 or so minutes that I had to give my presentation and then wait for questions. I have the opportunity, and I really wish I could have done this in the course of the original presentation, but to be fair, it could have worked just as it's working now. But to be somewhat fair to the matter, it wouldn't have worked as well because Mythmoot is not it's not a convention. It's not like a sci-fi convention, a fantasy convention, or a gaming convention. It's an academic convention. That's also one of the reasons why it's so damn expensive. A normal Mythmoot early bird price, and this would be to go to the National Conference Center in Leesburg, Virginia, to actually be there in person, was $449, and the regular price was $499. So basically, $450, $500. So this is not peanuts. So. Yay! TD is here with waffles, and then Killam comes in with a follow-up of syrup, because my channel is the only one where you can get chicken and waffles and proper maple syrup from Canada, because we do not wish to offend TD Growl's sensibilities on the matter. Alright. Now I'm just checking over my text just to make sure, and I completely forgot to finish this before the stream, because I distracted myself by watching the last series of She-Ra, Princesses of Power, because why not? Let's see. I'm just leaving myself a note that, you know, oh hey, we're gonna play that game. I do have some actual games to play from the Nintendo GameCube era. Actual games that I myself own. There's 4 of them here, and we're going to play all 4 of them. We're also going to play another game that's not well, it's not a graphics-based video game, but I think it'll be interesting for those wondering kind of what do those text-based games look like. So, if Catriona were here, she would be like, oh, hey, I know what that is. So we're going to do that, but again, we're going to give it about 15 minutes or so, and then I'll actually start reading the paper. While I'm reading that paper, I do have slides, as you can see, slides. And I will be paging through the slides so you can see pretty much how it went as it was going on. It'll be fun. And let's see. And at the end of the party, once I'm done showing off these 4 games, well, actually technically 5 older games, at the end, we'll hop into Lord of the Rings Online, and I will be playing some Lotro. I'll be on the Ithel server because I have gameplay to do there. But it really depends on how long it's going to take when I play these other games and how long I decide to play each one of them. Wait, we're playing Has a Waffle recipe? They're dying to try. Well, no dying, but definitely do the trying. Okay. Alright. Alright, got a little edit done. That makes a lot more sense. So, oh, by the way, I did find a way to play the Lego games through Steam, so. Something on my spacebar that's sticky. That's what you get when you eat your keyboard. I did not buy Shadows of Mordor or Shadow of War. I'm not gonna play those on the stream. Catriona is here with the resub as well. And I also want to give a shout out to one of the folks who was at MythMoot, was co-running the Room of Requirement. And I had noticed they subbed to my channel through Twitch Prime. And yes, most of you who follow me on Twitter have seen my commentary about the recent rebranding of Twitch Prime to Prime Gaming. I'm always going to call it Twitch Prime. You can't make me change because I think Prime Gaming is stupid. Because just like now, I'm talking about video games, but I'm not actually currently playing video games. So why is Prime Game? I guess it's. But what if I'm just doing art? What if I'm just doing a talk show? Not like Gary Whitta doing a talk show at Animal Crossing, but just like a regular talk show about food or something. It has nothing to do with gaming. That's not Prime Gaming. Anyway, that's another rant for another day. Alright. So what was it like giving a talk at MythMoot? Firstly, I don't know how many other people submitted a topic for a paper for discussion. Now, one thing to bear in mind is these weren't just normal presentations. These were actually expected to be like academic presentations, which I've done them before. Been there, done that. Wrote the papers. In fact, as I mentioned in our Slack space, because we use Slack and Discord and Google Meets and yeah. Those are the venues that we basically had MythMoot without actually being in Virginia. We used these virtual spaces to connect and to use people's webcams to see what everybody looked like and to see the reaction. And one of the cool things about having Slack as a secondary space is that we could all talk amongst ourselves while the event was going on. Like somebody was doing their speaking, and we used an app called GoToWebinar. which is what you see if you watch Professor Corey's Exploring Lord of the Rings on Tuesdays, or his Mythgard Academy. Basically, he's using GoToWebinar. You wonder, well, where the hell is he getting these questions from? He's not reading them out of Discord. He's getting them from GoToWebinar. And that's handy for him because, like, people can ask questions and the only person who sees them are the presenters, so there's not like a back and forth, which is something Corey actually does not need and does not want necessarily. I mean, it's nice for the more informal Exploring Lord of the Rings, but people get chatty, so it's very distracting. So having a space where the presenter can see a question without it being drowned out, like, signal to noise ratio kind of ways, it was very handy. However, we ourselves were talking about stuff, having the side channel conversations over in Slack, and we're like, oh my God, I didn't think about that. Or, hey, now I've got something else to read. And, and it wasn't interrupting the flow of the presentations, but we still got to talk amongst ourselves, which is actually a nice added dimension to how MythMoot persisted. And I think they're considering having Slack or something similar next year, or for the next in-person MythMoots or regional moots or whenever. So that's kind of cool, is that because they had to shift into this other methodology for taking care of having this convention, this conference, I shouldn't call it, it's not a convention. It's not like there are people selling some stuff. There was a vendor's alley. There was, people discussing cross-stitch. I know, Katriana, you were doing some cross-stitch during the thing. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I was also very intimidated because I hadn't written a proper presentation in a while. I mean, it's one thing for me to get permission to teach Lotro 101 on the Signum U channel, because there's a lot of people in the Signum U community who like playing MMOs or who are interested in Lotro and wanted to learn how to play. It's very different when you're getting up in front of this audience of some couple hundred, I don't even know how many hundreds of people were there. Or were participating. And to be giving a paper, an actual proper paper, when, like, the person also giving a paper in the other room has the letters PhD after their name. Or the person in front of you is discussing, games as this deep and metaphysical conversation about, free will in video games, or the person after you discussing card games and how these are interesting and how they apply to the theme of the conference of the light, defying darkness, which is the theme of the thing. And when I read my script here, I'm like, wait, what? How is this worthy to, as I tweeted a thread about this yesterday, it's like, how is this worthy to stand up against the folks who are writing, actual scholars, PhDs and master's students and master's graduates, when I just got a BA in history. So what? And, most of the stuff that I was looking for, the actual list I was working from, you can Google that shit, right? So it was definitely a moment where I had some serious imposter syndrome. And there's also the fact that once it was all done and I was coming up, I'm like, oh, I did it, oh my God, I did it. I was the only person in the entire group of presenters who was like, yay, I did it, oh my God, I did it. Everybody else is like cool and calm. I was like, yeah, I did that. Mm-hmm. And one of the papers presented was recently adapted into an actual scholarly peer-reviewed document that wound up in the Journal of Tolkien Research or something this weekend. I'm like, I'm just writing about video games. What the hell, people? But, and I would have honestly figured this would be more suitable to one of the regional moots, which would have been, MythMoot is the big deal, right? It is a whole weekend. They rent out a special facility. It's very expensive. You have to go to Virginia. Versus the regional moots are like one day, much less cost. And you show up at a scheduled place. They might have like a scheduled meal or something like that, but there's no real, it's not an actual conference. So there's a little bit less of a little bit less of a formality to it, I guess you might say. So that was also interesting. I think one of the few things that people really missed about the real in-person Myth Moot is the fine food at the National Conference Center. The staff there are amazing, and the food there is amazing. And there is, well, you can look at people through webcams and whatnot, and, you know, there is still the downside that you're not in person. I mean, there is still that little bit of a disconnect to say, okay, well, they're not right here in my living room, which is kind of good because my living room was a mess. On the flip side of that, because everybody was at home, Rick! Sapiens! Hey, Tuba! Siren is here as well. So, the other upside to being virtual and everybody being at home is there was a great deal more visitors from the four-footed kind, shall we say. Several kitty cats wound up in the Myth Moot broadcasts or in our Google Hangouts after dark. So that was kind of fun. In fact, Thief Kitty did make an appearance during my presentation. Thankfully, only once. And he didn't feel like being much of a pest. He may make an appearance while I'm reading tonight. I don't know where he is. He's probably upstairs, as usual. He's not in his chair next to me. He might show up later. So, we've got about 7 minutes to kill, and then I'm actually going to start the actual presentation. The main difference between what's going to happen with how I read it tonight versus how I read it Friday morning is I am going to stop and play video games in the middle of my presentation at the relevant points, with the exception of Lotro, which I will play at the end because that was how I'll just basically be playing Lotro for the rest of the evening. And we'll be on Ithel, which, Sapiens, you and I need to have a conversation about that. About transferring to Honor, if we're going to do that. So, but we'll talk about that later. So just for you, Sapiens, I am and figured out how to play Lego Lord of the Rings for this presentation. So it's gonna happen. I also most of the games that I have here, look, 4 games that I'll be playing off of my Wii. Because these are GameCube games, and I happen to have one of the old first generation Wii consoles that can still play GameCube games. I think if you got a Wii on the first generation, like the first version after the initial release, they don't have the capability of playing GameCube games anymore. So I lucked out. So we're going to play some Lego Lord of the Rings as part of our adventure. And all 4 of these games we're going to play, which is The Two Towers, Return of the King, The Hobbit, and The Third Age. These are all games made for the GameCube, which is why I can play them. And Lego Lord of the Rings will be coming from Steam, which for some reason you have to hack it to be able to play in windowed mode, but I figured a way to make it happen, so it'll be fun. And the way I can play my Wii, which is not an HDMI-capable device, is I got a converter, and I'm running it through an Elgato HD60S capture card sitting right over there. What else is going on? And I also, ironically, I have the ER sensor for the Wiimote. Right here, is sitting on top of my webcam, kind of precariously perched. So, and this is one of the Wiimotes that came with Skyward Sword. So it's the gold one. It's pretty. Let's see, what else have we got? I actually had to go find the password for my old Linux account on my friend Kat and Andy Wilson's Linux server, and that'll be fun. Because I haven't used a command line interface for a game in far too long. Otaku, how are you? Welcome. Why are my notifications going nuts? Oh, because I complained about things. So I got retweets from Katriana Wayward Plane. Nice. And that tweet about that tweet about Prime Gaming is going places, which that's what I was hoping it would. But thanks for the retweets also from Big Mikey Ocho, and Elda. Of course, Elda's all over. Elda is everywhere. So, all kinds of fun. Let's see. What's going on in my own Discord? Discord's running a little bit late, but that's okay. The bot is running late. Anyway. We have no music. Why am I wearing my headset? Because eventually I'm going to get sound going on. And I actually have a song stuck in my head in the form of some music from the wedding. The downside, one of the downsides to Mythmoot, and I'm keeping an eye on the time here, was that Professor Corey was going to do a run through the wedding, because that's still available in Lotro, even though the Midsummer Festival is gone. Unfortunately, it didn't work. His setup just would not... He could log into the game for a little bit, and then when you tried to stream, it just went it was bad. So, it was horrible. And we were all really disappointed because, especially like Ethelod, I feel real bad for Ethelod because he stayed up so late. He's in the UK, and he's been pushing for Corey to hop on his other character, Wigan, and to play something, do more Minas Tirith content, and it just didn't work. It was a bummer. However, I'm going to remind him again tomorrow night of my suggestion, which I made that Friday night, of maybe you can do this on Friday instead of your usual Grifflet stream. Just do the Wigan stream during his official tenure. And of course, since my show's right after his, we could just basically say, "Hey Corey, just keep going. If you're not done, let's keep going." Because I think if he plans around it, I don't think his wife will murder him. Because we found out during Professor Serena Higgins's dance lessons was that the other Dr. Olson is not a fan of dancing. So at one point, when Serena was trying to get Corey to get Mrs. Dr. Olson on the stream, Corey made a wisecrack about how he does have a dance partner, and he would like to retain his marriage by not getting her on camera. So. Having met the formidable Dr. Mrs. Olson, she's a nice lady. It's fine. And we are coming up to our time, so shall we dance, as it were? In the meantime, let me get my screens ready. Look at that. My face is now bright because I'm looking directly at my slide. And let me get my script ready. It's 8 o'clock. Let's go. Tomas Delgado, welcome. You're just in time. Let's do this. And I totally did that before I went on the air. All right. Let's get this going. Professor Tolkien created a fictional world in which the highest form of technology was early modern weapons of war in the hands of the Númenóreans. While his later years coincided with the earliest days of video games and the internet, he never lived to see his creation take shape in those forms. Tonight we'll be discussing the various games, licensed or not, that use Middle-earth and Tolkien's work as their foundation. While actual video games were invented in 1958 with Tennis for Two played on an oscilloscope, no, Pong was not the first. Something I personally learned while doing the research here. The first video game featuring Tolkien's work wasn't released until 1982 when Melbourne House published The Hobbit for several kinds of home computers such as the Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum, and Apple II. They and affiliate Addison Wesley would jointly or separately publish 3 more games in 1985. Lord of the Rings Game 1, 1987 with The Shadows of Mordor, and 1989 with The Crack of Doom, each covering one of the books in the trilogy in succession. These games were all crafted in a text-adventure format. That is, there were precious few graphics, and the games focused on entering simple commands or keywords like go north or take sword, and solving puzzles to progress through the content. Critics tended to approve of the first 4 games as being the most well-rounded and challenging of the lot. During this time, in 1988, Melbourne House also published a completely separate game for various PC systems under their license entitled War in Middle-earth. Unlike the puzzle-solving text adventures they previously and subsequently published, War in Middle-earth was an early entry in the real-time strategy or RTS genre. Players would control units of fighters in various battles with limited interactions with the book characters. The game's plot more or less followed the overall story in the books, but it had better graphics than the text adventures. The only other licensed Tolkien-based video game during the 1980s was Parker Brothers' Lord of the Rings: The Journey to Rivendell, created for the Atari 2600 and Atari home computer in 1983. It never got past the prototype stage and was never officially released to the public. However, one or more copies of that prototype have been leaked over the years, and so one is able to acquire a copy of its original code from archive sites such as Atari Age and use an emulator like Stella to play it to some extent, albeit not technically legally. Unlike the Melbourne House games, Journey to Rivendell included full graphics rather than a text-based narrative, with a couple of static images in keeping with it being played via joystick versus keyboard. Of course, being from 1983, those graphics are very much basic shapes. The mid-80s also saw 2 parody games published, neither licensed by the Tolkien Estate or Middle-earth Enterprises. The first was entitled Board of the Rings, with a major nod to the National Lampoon book of the same name, published by Delta 4 and CRL Group. The second was called The Boggart, a game created to parody the Melbourne House's The Hobbit, released by the same companies as a prequel to Board of the Rings. Both are text-based with static graphics in the manner of the earlier home computer games. Another game published in the mid-80s was the roguelike Moria, with some names and nods to the Tolkien Legendarium, but mostly meant to be a successor to the more generic Dungeons & Dragons-inspired Rogue. A roguelike is a dungeon crawl, where players are expected to keep playing as long as they can, but have to start over with nothing if their character dies. They also tended to be very limited in graphics in early days, using normal keyboard characters in creative ways to simulate spaces to move through, monsters to fight, and one's actual character. Tolkienian video games turned a page in the 1990s with the rise of better PCs and consoles such as the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or SNES or SNES, depending on which camp one is in terms of pronunciation, as well as a new player in the publishing scene, a company called Interplay Productions. Gone with the text-based adventures, and games with graphics would be the licensed standard going forward. Interplay's first entry came in 1990 with their version of the Fellowship of the Ring entitled J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings Volume 1. Created for pre-Windows PCs running DOS, it was a proper turn-based RPG similar to the Final Fantasy series, where the player would control a party of characters and use them in turn to solve puzzles, use items, and fight enemies. This game not only included a pretty large departure from the canon in that Frodo and Sam get taken by the Nazgul to Dol Guldur, but it's also included plenty of non-canonical side quests to expand the world around the player and add more things to do. An interesting footnote in the history of this game includes a brush with the company that eventually became Blizzard Entertainment, creators of World of Warcraft. The nascent company, under its founding name of Silicon and Synapse, was responsible for porting this game to the Amiga platform in 1991. There was a sequel centered around the story of the Two Towers, but much like Ralph Bakshi's animated The Lord of the Rings, Interplay never managed to complete the trilogy. Before the 90s were over, there were 2 more official entries in the listing of games based on Middle-earth. One was another RTS called Riders of Rohan, published by Konami in 1991. It was focused on the conflict with Saruman, and like the earlier Melbourne House RTS, didn't allow for much player use of the book characters. Then, in 1994, Interplay published the last licensed Tolkienian video game until the advent of the Peter Jackson movies, entitled The Lord of the Rings Volume 1 for the SNES. Not to be confused with the previous game of the same name published for PC. This was a fully realized, graphics-based video game, and it followed the Fellowship storyline up to the fight with the Balrog and Moria instead of to the breaking of the Fellowship storyline The Fellowship in the Lore. There was to be a sequel, but due to its poor reviews and equally poor sales, no such sequel was ever published. There was a drought of officially licensed game for 8 years, but that's not to say the fan community wasn't having their own fun in Middle-earth, as I gave you a little sneak preview there. Gamers with access to stable servers running various forms of Unix or Linux created MUDs or mushes based on Tolkien's world. A MUD, multi-user dungeon, or mush, multi-user shared hallucination, is a text-based command-line persistent game running on such a server, where players would log in as a specific character and roleplay as that character. The most enduring of these is Elendor, founded in 1991 and still online. It's set in the years just prior to Bilbo leaving the Shire and Fellowship of the Rings. There was another popular one mentioned by Catriona called Beleriand Mush. Unfortunately, I could not find an active server for it. So most of the games of this nature restricted certain characters or types of characters from new players, or entirely. Like, you can't play an ant, you can't play, this, or you can't play that. With most of the best role players and administrators taking on the characters from the books, like Aragorn, Arwen, Galadriel, etc. They featured mostly static text-based descriptions of locations with connections between these locations, so players could travel from one area to another, as well as extensive news files to explain the setting, the rules of the game, etc. So, I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots from Elendor, and then we're going to connect to it. So, basically, it's just, you just see the text, and it'll tell you some things you can type in, and it'll, throw out some responses, or it'll take you somewhere to see something else. So we are going to log in and see if we can go see Elro here. And let me get this right here. Gonna hang on to that screenshot, and we're gonna turn on Putty. Oh my gosh, Putty. Hello, Putty. So I'm using an application called Putty, which is a secure shell server application that lets you connect to Unix boxes if you know how. So I'm currently connected to my friend Kat and Andy's Linux server, which I think is in Florida someplace, or somewhere, I don't know. And through this server, I'm actually connected to a mush called 2mush, but I am going to open up Putty, and we're going to connect to Elendor. So I've already created a command and a shortcut, and we're going to go see, there we go, Elendor is awake. I don't have a character here, so I'm going to connect as a nomad. Most games call him the guest character. We're going to go see who's online. So you log in, it immediately tells you, for help, look at these files, type these commands, and you should, talk about it. Basically, with most of these, it will tell you, hey, where's the last person who logged into this character? They logged in yesterday at 4 in the morning from somebody who's in Illinois running on Comcast. So, and it says, a newbie, a guest player has connected. And this is the recruiting room. Most games like this will start with just a room that gives you out-of-character information, because they're not going to let you just immediately log in and go rampaging along the landscape. Most of them are going to actually ask you to fill out like some brief or long application, say, this is my character, this is who they are, this is where they're from, etc., etc., because they're going to want to make sure you fit in with the game in most places. So this game allows you to play, various peoples, and you can do something like you can visit Erebor, you can visit Lorien, you can visit Rohan. Some games will have more places to visit than others. Let's see who else is on right now. Palinonen, who's apparently a big fan of Elendil. Aragorn is logged in, which means that's probably a long-term player, or a well-liked player, somebody who basically applied to play the role of Aragorn, and it's probably given some sort of role-playing test, or there's somebody who's been around long enough that people know who they are, know that they're good, and said, okay, you can play that role. And then you've got somebody hanging out there, with like somebody's logged in as Arrow here. You'll also have people who are the admins of the game. In some games, the admins will not use the same in-character names as others. Like, there's a Dragon Riders of Pern game, the last one I adminned on. The admin characters were all named after Star Wars characters. That way you would know for sure this admin was, being an admin, and they're not actually role-playing as that character. So let's see if we want to visit. Let's see if we're going to visit Imladris. So we just type in, up here it says visit such and such a place, where place is one of these down here. So we could visit Mordor if we wanted to. And this place is very interesting, as they have like Amon Thranduil, which I imagine is the Elven King's halls. They got Dunlin, Erebor, Lorien, Rohan, Mithlond, which is interesting. Emin Engren, which I'm not entirely sure where that is off the top of my head, but Imladris, you can go to Dale, you can go to Isengard, but I like Imladris, so we're going to go to Imladris. In this game, you type in, you know, visit Imladris, and you wind up in the Imladris out of character room. It's going to give you a whole bunch of commands of things that you can do to find out more about how are you going to play Imladris. Yeah, and as Catriona does say in chat, the named characters are rewarded based on, you know, them being familiar with your roleplay, and knowing that you're a good player. But yeah. So you can also go back to where you were. You can read this corkboard with some notes, and you can also go wandering around. So since dining hall leads to the dining hall, so let's go to the dining hall. So this is the in-character description of the dining hall in Imladris. So basically they created a description of what it looks like when you look at something, you know, what are you seeing? How would you describe it in your head if you were going to write down what does this thing look like? So this is a high hall of polished with laughter and song and the aroma of lingering feasts. 2 flights of amber pillars run down its length on either side, supporting an open gallery, and their lucent reflections are like spears of gold upon the walls of white cloud marble. And some of them can get a little bit more flowery than others. So this is basically, this is what a mush is. You log in, and if you want to interact with somebody else, let's say there's somebody else in this room, you would type a colon and then write something out, like assume that your character's name is at the beginning, right? Then the colon is a space, think of it as a space, and then you just write out what your character is going to do, like, so I could say looks around in wonder, and then I hit enter, and then it, you know, turns back and says, you know, Nomad looks around in wonder. So something like that. And then a lot of these would be like, okay, this person is going to say something, and then this person will react to it. In most of these games, you can't say, well, I hit somebody in the face. You have to say, I took a swing at somebody, and then the other person reacts to what you just did. And in a lot of cases, you know, they'll have the opportunity to dodge. And there's all kinds of rules about, you know, what you should do in roleplay and what you shouldn't do in roleplay. Some role-playing games say you shouldn't type, like the way this is broken up into 2 paragraphs, you shouldn't write more than this in a certain, you know, action, or maybe even less than that. And other ones are like, write a novel. So that's a mush, and that's how you play a mush, more or less. I mean, there's a lot more. There's a lot of mushes still around there. You can go do some Googling, but Elendor is the one most people know for these sorts of things. So let me get my session out the way. Let's go back to our slides. All right. Next, let's see what else we've got here. I mentioned ANGBAND. Did I? Did I not? No, I did not. So let's go. So one of the other most enduring examples of an unlicensed product is the roguelike ANGBAND, published in 1990. ANGBAND is vaguely based on the Silmarillion and is considered one of the toughest games to ever beat. Unlike most of the other games in this presentation, including its spiritual predecessor Moria, ANGBAND is still being actively developed by a team of programmers, with the most recent update being released in June 2020. It has progressed beyond the use of keyboard characters to replicate landscapes, with some exceptions. And it kind of looks like this. This is your character generation. And you see a lot of names, and like you can be a kobold, which was never in Tolkien's Legendarium. You got classes like warrior, mage, druid, priest. These things, again, more inspired by D&D than necessarily Tolkien, but you can see where it kind of comes from. And you set up your stats, and this version of ANGBAND that I picked up just the other day doesn't use the keyboard characters to replicate your landscape, but it has actual tiles. But still, you can die. You can so easily die. So that's one thing about ANGBAND. In the meantime, let's see what we have got. So the license to craft new video games lay fallow until the turn of the millennium, when the explosion of the internet in the 90s and the wide availability of more sophisticated PCs and game consoles meant a situation ripe for developers if only they could acquire licensing rights. First up was Vivendi, who released The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring in 2002, a year after the first Peter Jackson film. Unlike many of the games since, this one had absolutely no ties to the New Line Cinema movies because Vivendi's licensing deal was for games based on the adaptations of the original books, not the movies. While it sold decently, it was panned by critics and a planned sequel was canceled before release. This game is also notable for featuring the voice acting talents of a number of top-level Hollywood voice actors. It was also praised for its faithfulness to the source material. Licensing comes back into play with Electronic Arts, or EA, coming on the scene with their plethora of games based on the Jackson films. They too technically did not manage to complete the trifecta, although they included Fellowship of the Ring's content in the Two Towers game for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and the Nintendo GameCube. Since they were following the movies and not the text, they also followed changes to the story, such as the elves being at Helm's Deep. Also, many of the actors from the films lent their voices to the games, some recording new dialogue, and as one is completely unsurprised by the fact that Aragorn actor Viggo Mortensen went one step further to recreate some of his sword fighting moves in the studio for the developers to work from. The Two Towers was a commercial and critical success, the first of its kind for video games based on the Legendarium. For the first time, even though they technically didn't complete the hat trick, EA was able to release one of the first games that properly told the story of Return of the King in 2004. The Two Towers, Return of the King. Alright. So, let's fire up the happy fun. Let's fire up the Wii and see if we can get this to work. Wayward Plain loved ANGBAND and was terrible at it. Everybody was terrible at ANGBAND, except maybe David Brevik. Alright, eat this. Alright, this will be fun. Oh, sure. Let's see if this will actually work. Wakey, wakey. Oh, that's loud. All right. First of all, can you see the... No, you can't. You can hear it, but you can't see it. Well, shame on me. Turn that off. Turn that off. Turn that on. Whoop. There we go. Can you hear the Wii, by the way? They also have license for the movie's music. Tomas, yes, that did come with it, as we will soon find out. And the cool thing about my ancient Wii is I can use the original GameCube console. There's not enough space. Oh no. We're going to continue without saving. See, copyright 2002, New Line Productions, Lord of the Rings and characters' names and places they're in, the Saul Zaentz Company, aka Middle-earth Enterprises. See how terrible I am at this game. Oh, that's not awesome. In AOL Time Warner. AOL and Time Warner, that was funny. Hey, look, it's the Aniran font, which I use in a lot of stuff. I don't know if you can hear the music in the background. Wow, that sounds very bad. Galadriel sounds very sick. And we're not getting a picture either, which is very strange. Oh, there it is. Just like the movies. It's also the fact that this game is almost 20 years old, so... As you can see, it was the scene from the movie. And Círdan still doesn't have a beard. The sound is amazing, actually. Basically, it's Galadriel from the movies, Kate Blanchett. Yeah, like she breathed in helium. So the sound isn't coming through very well, and I think that's probably how it's being sent through the capture card. What I could do, actually, is turn it up on the TV. Exactly, Tomas. any better, Tomas. Basically, much like Epic Battles in Lotro, you basically, when you play a mission, it tells you how well you did and, you know, gives you an upgrade based on that. So, that's pretty much how you play the two towers. Now, let's go, pop into, you want to see Return of the King? Let's play Return of the King. Meanwhile, our friend Cordovan was playing Fall Guys right now. I'm going to actually pop out to the Nintendo home screen. Come on, you. Well, maybe just pop the game out because we're going to do that. Apparently, whatever. Almost fell. Please close the disc cover. What disc cover are you talking about, Sunshine? Wait. And we're just going to reset it and go again. One game down. A couple more to go. Alrighty. These are like the mini discs. So, reset the Wii. There we go. Blue screen of death. Is no signal. Is it on? Yes. Alright, can I hear the Nintendo? Can I hear the Nintendo? Okay. Alright. I'll keep going to my mouse. Ancient technology. Alright, let's see if this one actually plays without mangling the sound. Oh, game disc could not be read. Oh dear. Well, no 3 Return of the King for us, I guess. Well, let's pop that bad boy out. Sorry. Well, it's weird that the GameCube game sound is fine, but the actual disc itself sounds terrible. That is strange. Alright. Hold that thought. Let's go back here. And let's continue our conversation. Alright, so we just saw the two towers. And let me turn my input back to my monitor so I can see what the hell's going on. Alright, let's move on. Back to fun stuff. So this is what Return of the King would normally look like. Basically an upgrade of the UI of the other game. I personally found it harder to play, so... Anyway, moving on. Alright. The divergent licensing for both the both sets of games, and this was the Vivendi game, the Fellowship of the Ring game and the 2 EA games so far, it set a precedent that continues to this day. A couple of things to bear in mind is firstly that the EA games derived from the movies literally could not use elements from the books that weren't present in the movies, such as the same as how the Vivendi game, which was published after the first Jackson movie, couldn't use any story elements from those movies that aren't present in the original text. Secondly, Middle-earth Enterprises, and sometimes the Tolkien estate themselves, typically have approval or veto rights over licensed properties, so one will find that most official games tend to not stray too far into the dead marshes and away from the text. This will be continued to be important later on. Moving on, Vivendi kept publishing games with various developers and subsidiary publishers such as Sierra. These included 2003's The War of the Ring, an RTS using controls similar to Blizzard's Warcraft 3, and The Hobbit, which retold Frodo's story in a more young adult or cartoony sort of setting with intentionally easier combat and a wider color palette to appeal to a younger audience. Let's see if this one will work. Eat that. It actually may be because I have the Wii sitting on its side rather than flat. We'll find out. Alright. Let's go back to that. And there is a screenshot of that as well. Please insert... No, I'm not going to insert that other game. I still think the reset key on this thing's a little bit borked. Alright, wakey wakey. Wakey wakey wee. The weird thing is this did work before because I streamed all of these games before. Without sound issues, I might add. Headphones. See, this is Vivendi, and you notice... Oh, God. Again. With the weird sound. Whatever. Sorry, we're gonna get weird sound. So this is Sierra, working for Vivendi. Sierra, of course, did the Homeworld games to some extent, and they were pretty cool. Just seeing the screenshot. Un momento, por favor. That's not what I was looking for. Where is it? I'm such a pro at this, aren't I? Alright. How the game was not found. Would you like to create one? Continue without saving. What? Hi! Come here, Thiefy. And that Moobot command is a lie! It is a filthy liar. DDO transfers are currently turned off, so... Come on. Come on, you dummy. Alright, let's continue without saving. Telling the story without even playing the game. this game is definitely more for kids than the other games. No, Snowblom. They don't.
You need a burglar to steal into Lonely Mountain. Here he is. Bilbo Baggins. Excitable little fellow, but fierce as a dragon in a pinch.
Yeah, I don't know why the sound sounds terrible coming from the Wii. It might honestly be because it's trying to send sound to the TV and... about this game just really highlights the difference between the product size and the doesn't really tell you how to play the game though. I'm just hitting buttons. A is clearly jump, and B is clearly fight things. Well, hey, doesn't have any stick. Okay, so Y apparently no X changes things. I'm sure there's a speedrunning community for this game. So this is like the tutorial segment where it's not really telling you how to play the game. Does it have sound issues when I'm playing off stream? No, it doesn't. But it didn't have it the last time I played it either, I'm sure. Let me see if I can hear here. Oh yeah, that's horrible. Oh, it wants me to install something. Let me try something here. Close that window. Aha! Whoops. Something just happened. Alright. Well, by turning off the sound from the Elgato capture card, I can hear it on the TV. But my video input is going all kinds of weird. But you can basically get an idea of how the game is going. Alright, we're going to actually skip this. I'm going to get out of the dream sequence. And this basically is your quest log. It'll tell you what you're looking for, how to fight the game, you know, what's required and what's optional before you can move on to the next step. So, look for an exit and fight the goblins. They're both seemingly required, as is fighting the goblins. And you've got your items. You use the buttons left and right to go through your items. It tells you how much money you have, and it's all pretty much Zelda-like and kid-friendly. And these are things that you can find, and then controls for the game itself. I do kind of like the ladybugs wandering around; those are kind of cool. So that's pretty much how The Hobbit plays. I did want to actually get to the Shire long enough. Long enough to actually get out of here. But yeah, it looks like the capture card's acting up. So that's all kinds of awesome. I think it's very grumpy. But that's okay, it's old technology. Come on, you. Go away. Notice how you have Sting, and Sting is definitely glowing. As if there are orcs and goblins about. Not even entirely sure where this is. Like what town it's in. Oh, explosive barrels. I wonder what happened. Oh, hey, look. It's an exit. Bolg. Okay, there we go.
Despite his fear, something awoke. Explore caves and carry a sword
instead of a walking stick.
Bilbo agreed to go.
Because he's a foolish hobbit. So in this game, yeah, Bilbo doesn't start off as a fighter. This was a dream sequence he was having. So he just woke up. Like, basically, the dwarf showed up. He fell asleep. He had this nightmare or dream sequence. And now it's the actual game is starting.
The morning, Mr. Baggins. That won't convince. Show him if I have to walk to the east and... Well, now you'll just have to walk to the Green Dragon Inn.
The dwarves are waiting for you.
And no time to pack. Just
fetch your walking stick. Who knows where you went up today. Alright. Press start to check the quest log. Quest log will tell you what to do next. I think any game was like very basic and very friendly. It's telling you, you know, how many health points you have and press this button for it to do something. So basically meet the doors and find your walking stick. And then you'll wind up doing a whole bunch of other quests in the Shire. I want to actually get out the door so we can see. But this thing flaking out is not amusing me at all.
dwarves at the Green Dragon Inn.
I'm gonna skip that. Stop it. You're in my way. Alright, you should pick up courage points, and courage points is part of the gameplay for The Hobbit. And of course, somehow Bilbo has his big old treasure chest in his living room. And there's your walking stick. Yeah, you've got your walking stick. And the walking stick is going to be your weapon for a while, so get used to it. Whoa. Let me out, let me out. There we go.
What's this? Silver pennies must be scattered all over Hobbiton.
So basically, yeah. Here's the Shire, you're in Hobbiton, and then it tells you how to save things, so. And you can jump, and you're going to do some hobbity things in the Shire. You're going to wander around, find your silver pennies, and, you know, complete these quests. And eventually, you're going to find the hobbit, or the dwarves, at the Green Dragon, and then you're going to go on an adventure. And yeah, you basically play through Lord of the Rings, or I'm sorry, The Hobbit, through its story, and it's a lot of fun, but it's definitely kid-friendly, so if you want a more mature content, this ain't it. Alright, let's pop you out. Alright, actually let's go back to the home screen. Boop. Wakey wakey. Alright. Yeah, you are... The graphics are very dated, but it was published in 2003. So, it is what it is. Hi, kitty. Alright. So check that out. Alright. Hi. Hello. Okay. Disc cover's open. You hush. Alright, let's go back to the slides for a second. Mouse, go over here. Boop. Okay. You're very grumpy, aren't you, cat? Alright. Let's go back to the slides and the presentation, shall we? Alright. So, we mentioned The Hobbit. So, those seeking a more mature gameplay were rewarded in 2004 when EA released The Third Age. This turn-based RPG had its own rich story involving non-lore characters. See, there's the Hobbit. Trailing in the footsteps of the Fellowship and broadly linked to the Jackson films. At certain points, the player got to interact with or even use the book characters in their party, and those characters tended to be massively overpowered compared to the original characters. While the plot follows the basic story of the trilogy and the gameplay is solid, it can leave a sour taste in the player's mouth when the game spends so much time implying or outright telling the player that the original characters of the game are the junior varsity team, always trailing behind the canonical Fellowship, and not being as good as the book characters. There are also some deviations from the trilogy's plot in that game, in that the game-created characters actually go to Barad-dûr and fight the Eye of Sauron, while Frodo is heading up the slopes of Ordor-Druin. But two upsides of this game is the use of the voices of Sirs Christopher Lee and Ian McKellen, and a cool evil mode that lets you control the forces of Sauron against the heroes after certain unlocks. Okay, this will be the last one on the Wii, so hopefully this won't, like, completely and terribly suck. And this was unusual in that it had 2 discs. So, let's see. Disc 1. I might need to put in disc 2 for this one, because I think my save settings... I could just start a new game. Alright. Fingers crossed, hope to die. Stick some Mordor in my eye. Please insert the Hobbit game disc. Oh, I don't think so. We're just going to reset the Wii again. Hi. He's being very vocal tonight. I don't know why. He's a butthead. And he did also make an appearance. This one's doing the same thing. Come on, XSplit. Stop being a butthead. See if it remembers where I was. And it's very nice. Oh. I did complete the game, didn't I? The Tower of Barad-dûr. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go to Barad-dûr. Oh, put in the second disc? Well, sure. This is, of course, these games, of course, were made before the really big advent of DVDs. Alright, the Pelennor Fields. And again, the game is doing the thing where it doesn't want to display on the TV for some reason. So basically, very minimal UI. I mean, you can zoom around using this button. So you can pan around your character to see what's going on. So we're on the Pelennor Fields. There's Minas Tirith. There's Mumok. One of whom probably stepped on Professor Corey. And look how pretty my elf character is. So, like Final Fantasy games, or even, you know, Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, you basically wander around until you find a battle that hits you, and then, you know, you come find it. As you can see, I also have a button there. It says I should go this way. Whoops, battle time. So this is a turn-based strategy game. So here's my party. This is one of those times I have Aragorn in my party. I have Barithor, who is the primary character of the game, who is a man of Gondor who followed his lord Boromir to Rivendell and didn't quite make it there. And so on the right-hand side, you can see who gets to act first, and you can see what your choices are. On the left-hand side, you can see how everybody is doing in terms of things. So we can do a small attack, we can do a big attack, we can do various kinds of attacks like Axecraft, dual Axecraft. So right now, let's see, it looks like it's Morwen is the character right now. She's a lady, well, she is a woman of Rohan. And the story is that because our dude from Gondor isn't good enough for the elf lady, he's gonna settle for the Rohan lady. Whatever. So we're just gonna have Morwen attack somebody with her axes because she's not a shield maiden. And you just see them run up, hit somebody, then go back to their spot. And it looks like we did a critical hit on that guy. So now we can be Aragorn and kick some butt. We can do the Rage of Elisar. It will tell you how many points your thing will do. So Elisar could do the Rage of Elisar, Numenor Wrath, the Bane of Sauron, and Call of the Dead. And of course, the more points something costs, the more it's gonna do. And sometimes it won't let you do anything else. Like right now I'm trying to go down and select, like, there we go. A more powerful sword attack, a ferocious combo that does the best damage. Or none but the King of Gondor can summon this army. Well, we don't need the King of Gondor to run over these guys. We'll do the ferocious combo just because. And now we get the Elf Lady, and you might expect the Elf Lady also has the ability to use something called Spirit Powers, which are basically magic. So you can aid, which is heal, or you can also use an item. Like if you want to heal with a potion or something, there's also Perfect Mode and Change Weapon. There's also a Shadow Craft, which channels deadly battle skills. And so this is basically how you play through the game, is you just pick something. And so we're pretty much most of the way through the game, so we really do have not much that we can do. So use sword skills to attack an enemy. We'll use swordcraft. And then we have choices of what kind of power we want to use. Like a weakening slash. I think we'll go with Elven Rage because I'm a smartass like that. Yeah, I'm so sorry for this acting up. But at least you're not having the sound issues right now, so. And they're all attacking the same guy, and he still hasn't fallen. And this will be how you play through the game. And yes, the graphics are dated. They do look better on TVs that were set for that particular era. Back then we didn't care. So, that's the third age, and the last of the games through my poor Nintendo Wii. So, that's pretty much how it played. Alright. We're going to reset you. I think the reset button is stuck on this thing. Here you. Here you. Turn you off completely. Let's go back to the slides. So, those are some of the fun games. And they're a lot more fun to play if you're not trying to stream them and doing all kinds of weird things with them. Alright, let us get the capture card out of here. Let's also get... Where's Putty? I think I know what... Oh, I think I know why that was acting up. Let's remove that. Let's put this back on so I can see the right input. And let's turn on the slides again so you can see them. And then we'll continue. The rest of it we'll just be doing slides until the end, then we're going to play some Lotro over on the Itil server, I think, for a little bit. Might call the stream a little bit early. We'll figure this out. In the meantime, where are my slides? There's my slides. So, yeah, this is pretty much the third age. As you can see in this particular scene, people have not leveled up quite as much. They look like they're in Moria. So, a lot of fun with that game, but it did spend way too much time telling you how much you sucked compared to the story characters, which I didn't like. But anyway. Okay. So, moving on. In 2004 and 2006, EA released 2 entries in Middle-earth gaming with the Battle of Middle-earth. And its sequel. Both are real-time strategy games that sold well and received better than average critical response. Both games featured the ability to play good and evil campaigns, much like many two-sided RTS games. We haven't got there, Tomas. We're doing this chronologically. EA would later exit from developing games based on the Legendarium in late 2009 with the lackluster Lord of the Rings Conquest, whose only redeeming quality was the appearance of Elrond actor Hugo Weaving. Their departure was mandated by the end of their license agreement with Middle-earth Enterprises, with Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment taking up the mantle in 2010. Alright. Okay. Before that, however, a relatively small company operating in the Boston area obtained the rights to create the first ever massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG, based on the Legendarium. That company was called Turbine, and the game they began developing as Middle-earth Online launched in 2007 as the Lord of the Rings Online, or LOTRO. To this day, LOTRO remains the single best and most faithful adaptation of Tolkien's work in a video game, with the same core developers hard at work adding more content to the game 13 years after launch. This is despite the dev team transforming into a new company called Standing Stone Games and acquiring new publisher Daybreak Games. Standing Stone Games retains the license originally acquired by Turbine that allows them to create content based on the text of The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and the appendices. It doesn't allow them to directly quote the text or make reference to any content named or hinted at in works such as the Silmarillion or the History of Middle-earth series, or the Peter Jackson movies for that matter. This leads to curious paraphrasings of the text and the omission of certain names, such as Manwë. In LOTRO, players can play only as the free peoples of Middle-earth in the landscape, choosing from elves, dwarves, hobbits, and humans, and a few variants of same, and various classes based on characters in the lore, such as hunters being based on Legolas, burglars, of course, being based on Bilbo, etc. Unlike the Third Age, player characters are deeply connected to the story of the Fellowship and are even accounted as esteemed friends by Gandalf and many other book characters throughout their service to the peoples of Middle-earth. Players are able to travel to the most of the iconic locations in Middle-earth and have frequently praised the game for its beautiful scenery where one expects the Shire, Rivendell, Lorien, Rohan, Gondor, and Erebor, and faithfulness to the lore in others' dismal appearances, such as Angmar, Moria, and Mordor. One innovation brought to this table is a feature called Session Play, which permits players to witness certain important events in history or other important recent lore plot points where our characters cannot be present. Players could play as Boromir and then Frodo in two separate instances to experience the famous scene at Amon Hen, or witness the oath taken at the Stone of Eric with Isildur, or even get to witness the end of the ring as Gollum. The MMO also features several other side options for play, such as player versus player via monster play. It's the only time when players can take on the roles of Sauron's forces. Players can also participate in a silly romp in the form of chicken play, running a rather defenseless chicken across the landscape to complete certain objectives. The game also features a robust music system with a lively community of players staging concerts every day of the week in large scheduled concert events with multiple bands every year, such as Weatherstock, a server-crushing day-long concert hosted by the fine folks in the Lonely Mountain Band, a kinship in-game founded by one of Mythmoot 6's keynote speakers, Mr. John D. Bartolo, who, by the way, premiered a new Lonely Mountain Band song, and it was so good! To be honest, one can speak at great length about LOTRO due to its sheer volume of content, but it's free to play, so one suggests simply downloading it and having a go. And that is what Weatherstock looks like with the nameplates on. In fact, what's really awesome is when I look at these names, I see people that I know. In fact, the person whose name is highlighted in the corner is my very own moderator, Southern Belle. So I see a thief kitty being obnoxious. So in this screenshot, anybody whose name is light blue is somebody in my kinship, which is the Department of Halbert Security. One of my kinships. Over here, we see Bjorbrand in the left-hand corner about midway. Bjorbrand Bjorning, the bard, is a member of the Lonely Mountain Band. In fact, is the leader of the bards, Beers, and Longbeards, the infamous BBB. I see Graylin, one of the officers of the Lonely Mountain Band, and I believe Master Aiden is standing next to her. So, all the people. I can't even tell who's playing on stage. It might be I don't think I can actually tell. No, it looks like the rolling kegs are on stage, which is really cool. I see Verowyn, who's the leader of. Hi. Are you happy? Good. In video games, yes, Tomas, that is the case because they don't go outside. They don't contradict the lore, except in a very few cases where they have to just to make gameplay work. What else can I see in here? I see Burka, the leader of the Lonely Mountain Band, like right above Verowyn. So we see that gap where the band is. Burka's there. So all these people. So a lot of these folks are still around in game. You can find them either in the kinship they're in or someplace else. Hey, Big Ed. We're doing an academic presentation today, complete with kitty cat. Ugh. I see Sanswinda of Mythgard. So it's kind of like, where's Waldo? It's like, who's that person? So, all kinds of fun people. Anyway. And one other thing to mention about Lotro, for anybody in here who isn't already a Lotro player, is they currently have a special going on right now. If you log in and put in the code Lotro Free Quests. If you go into the in-game store, go to redeem code, type in Lotro Free Quests. That'll unlock every single non-expansion quest in the game currently existing for all time on your account. So now's the best time to start playing. I see Master Cure going. I keep looking. It's like, ooh, I know that person. Ooh, I know that. I know that person. It's really cool. Anyway, let's move on. All right. So that's my next screenshot. Aha! Spoilers. This is the current content. The Great Wedding in Lotro is still available to play. It's pretty. All right. So we're going to talk about the Fourth Age. In the 2010s, the only other licensee for Tolkien video games is the aforementioned WB Interactive Entertainment. They are responsible for several different kinds of games across multiple platforms, including every generation of console, PC, and even breaking out into mobile and browser-based games. Pretty much all of these have ties to the Jackson movies, although WB later acquired the rights previously held by Vivendi to develop games based directly on the books. First such game was called Aragorn's Quest in 2010, a more kid-friendly entry into the oeuvre featuring two separate segments of gameplay. Sam telling stories to his children in the Shire, and Aragorn's deeds in the past that Sam is relaying, with content in one half of the game affecting the other. They then published War in the North in 2011, a game that featured several notable top-tier voice actors, but suffered from the nearby releases of other games such as The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. It's Skyrim. They even got into the MOBA craze for a while with Guardians of Middle-earth in 2012. MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena, a genre currently ruled by Riot Games' League of Legends. WB Interactive would be responsible for two more wildly different kinds of games based on the Legendarium, some based on the Jackson movies, some more leaning into the books, but all of them well praised for gameplay. One set is praised for its humor, while the other is dismissed with great vehemence by Tolkien scholars and a certain professor, due to their divergence from the lore. These are the two LEGO games, and the Assassin's Creed-like Shadow of Mordor and its sequel, Shadow of War. First, let's look at the LEGO games. WB has held the rights to craft LEGO games for years, including their own movie characters with various franchises they'd licensed into the cross-world LEGO Dimensions. However, they also developed two games that were exclusively retellings of The Lord of the Rings in 2012 and The Hobbit in 2014. LEGO video games tend to be full of humor even while they follow the basic story of their source material, in this case the movies versus the books. Players collect studs, defeat enemies, and acquire new characters to play throughout the story. They're very family-friendly with the occasional slight humor for the adults, with some scenes and plots toned down or otherwise altered to make them kid-friendly. Unlike LEGO Dimensions, both all Tolkien games feature dialogue from the movies with the original actors, with original voice work by noted figures in the Hollywood acting scene. Now, we're going to go play some LEGO. So, let's pop this here. And this is probably going to cause a problem, except I have got a plan. Come on, you. We're gonna change scenes. Boop. Yeah, sort of. There we go. As you can tell, you can hear the music from the movies, the Howard Shore soundtrack. So, to answer your question from earlier, yeah, whenever they got the movie adaptation for games, they always got the soundtrack as well. I don't know why the pig was fishing. Piggy, piggy. I don't imagine so, Zach. They'll probably, you know, I mean, obviously they're gamers, and they'll play pretty much all of the games they can. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're going to do. All right, let's see. Alright, you can see where I started playing it the other day, so we're going to take that one. It's familiar, isn't it? I like how the rings themselves were just the color. And there's the humor in Lego games. I'm literally just using the arrow keys to move around. And you die. Press H to attack. Oh, that's nice. Rawr, rawr, rawr. And the color of the studs will determine how much money you get. And of course, you've got Elrond helping you out, and you can also beat up your buddies, the folks who are with you. I'm using the arrow keys to move around. In this particular case, I suppose you could probably also use WASD. Can you? Yeah, you can also use WASD. I was using the arrow keys. Same. Well, actually, I was using WASD on my keypad. Ha 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 ha. Rawr. And so this is basically a tutorial. Oh no! It's gonna spit studs at us. It's like, what the hell? And then you can choose a different character to play if you want to. And as the bar at the top fills up, you enable something called a true something or other, where the next time you play through, whoops. No. It was near, but not near enough. Elrond is a Lego. How do you get that ring on? Checkpoint. Now we're gonna fight Sauron. Ow! That hurt. Hate that you can't actually see what you're doing. And of course, you target and then hit that when it's stuck in the ground. It says you. Who are we gonna switch to? Sorry, I didn't mean to hit you, Elrond. Whoa. Ow, that hurt. What's this? It's all glowy. I wonder what that is. It's glowing, so it probably means another character you can unlock later can mess with that. Excuse me. Definitely, these are definitely easier to play on a controller. Whoa. Ow. Ow. Part of this is hard. You can't... You're like... Ow. If you're behind Sauron, you can't actually see anything. Actually, I'm running this off of Steam right now. Because they recently gave away Lego and The Hobbit free. Either through Steam or through Humble Bundle or something. At some point, I picked it up for free. There we go. And of course, the voice actors were primarily actors from the movies, except sometimes they weren't. So, this is Lego Lord of the Rings. And there's one for The Hobbit, again, based on the Peter Jackson movies, using most of the same voice actors. I do have that as well. But for some weird reason, the two Lord of the Rings games on Steam do not have any kind of windowed mode without doing shenanigans. So we're gonna go on from here, though. Anyway, so I mentioned Lego, and the next other thing, let's go back to the presentation and my text. So the flip side of this particular coin is the Shadow of Mordor, which was published in 2014, and Shadow of War in 2017. Both focus on an Assassin's Creed style of open gameplay and missions and attacks based on an innovative Nemesis system. Hey, there's Lego Lord of the Rings, and here's Shadow of Mordor. Basically, the innovative Nemesis system is where your actions could change how powerful certain enemies could be based on whether they'd previously killed you or whether you killed them. In these games, the player is Talion, a ranger of Gondor living in the time just before and during The Lord of the Rings, who becomes possessed by a wraith, later identified as the long-slain elf ringsmith Celebrimbor, and they wage war on Sauron and his forces, culminating with the overthrow of a major lieutenant in the first game, and the forging of a new ring of power to begin the second. The second game goes even further off the rails from the story of the books, with most of the action involving Talion giving his new ring of power to Shelob, now seen as an attractive human woman, with a female elven assassin sent by Galadriel to help them take on Sauron, and discovering Isildur is somehow one of the Nazgul via another ring of power, and then Talion himself becoming a new Nazgul after being separated from an increasingly vengeance-bent Celebrimbor, and one is honestly left to wonder how they got away with all of this. The games themselves are actually really good in terms of gameplay. If the stories weren't based on a pre-existing canon, they'd be fine, but they're not. Sadly, it looks like WB and the developer Monolith Productions, who made these two games, are working on a third one. One can only imagine what they're going to do next, or dread it. Despite all of the officially licensed games based on the Legendarium as we've seen in the past, gamers with access to the right tools are perfectly happy making their own games, or in more recent days, often modifying existing games or simply creating a Tolkienian landscape in building games. This ranges from custom maps and mods in games like the aforementioned Warcraft 3 and Skyrim to two extremely faithful to-scale representations in Minecraft. One called Minecraft Middle-earth, the other named Artacraft. As most of these games or mods tend to be free and the creators aren't profiting off the use of the Tolkienian trademarks, it seems that most of them have been left alone in terms of cease and desist orders from either Middle-earth Enterprises or the Tolkien estate. The final license entries in our listing of video games based on the Tolkien lore have yet to be released. Firstly, Athlon Games joined forces with Amazon Game Studios to acquire the license to create another MMORPG completely unrelated to The Lord of the Rings Online, and seemingly also unrelated to Amazon TV Studios' in-production series set in the Second Age. The MMO's name has yet to be revealed to the public, and it should be noted that based on what little information has been publicly released, the game is supposed to be set during the Third Age at some point. It remains in active development at this time, with no information being published in gaming media since July 2019. A best guess estimate of game development based on past trends and the pace of other games being developed under the AGS umbrella would put the earliest release of any sort of public access via pre-orders, alpha, or beta, especially in this pandemic era, at somewhere over a year or more from now. The other to-be-released game is from Daedalic Entertainment, entitled The Lord of the Rings Gollum. Like the new MMO, Gollum isn't published by Warner Brothers, and likewise will not be drawing in content from the Jackson movies. It is intended to be released for PC and the current crop of next-generation consoles, such as PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, sometime in 2021, next year. But there's little information as to the gameplay style other than making an educated guess based on the studio's previous point-and-click titles. So, in conclusion, we can see a rise of video games over the years from basic text adventures with puzzles to sprawling open-world game spaces to inhabit with mostly realistic characters, Lego minifigures notwithstanding. The games have become increasingly sophisticated as technology itself improved over time, with better PCs and game consoles available to both developers and the general public. For the most part, the games have adhered to the setting crafted by Professor Tolkien through the studious licensing and occasional judicious use of the veto power held by licensor Middle-earth Enterprises, and sometimes a strongly worded comment from the Tolkien estate. However, once the Jackson movies catapulted the trilogy into the mainstream, games either had to cleave to the movies and maintain more access to the general public, or stick closer to the canon to remain more true to Tolkien's vision, but often suffered in sales due to it. Some had better gameplay than others, but there's no denying how often gamers love playing through Middle-earth and are willing to do it over and over again with each new iteration of the source lore. I'd like to thank you very much for your time. So, that was it. And I close with a picture of my maid on her war steed on a Talon at twilight in Lothlorien because I love Lothlorien. And I wanted to find a way to get Lothlorien in there somehow. So, that was it. And now we did not actually play some Lotro. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually play some Lotro. And let's edit stream info and actually choose the Lord of the Rings Online as our category. Oh Lord. No, the Lord of the Rings Online. Clicky, clicky. And we're going to go to the Ithel server. Probably going to play for like an hour or so. I actually did kind of want to watch somebody else playing Fall Guys, but you know, I'll just have to catch a stream later. In the meantime, note to self, learn how to freaking hit the buttons. Big shiny buttons. Let's get the slides out of the way. What's that game? Gonna go back here. And we're going to exit out of here. No, I keep hitting the wrong button. Oh, XSplit, you're being a silly thing. You are being a silly thing. Slides go bye-bye. The Great Wedding, we're not going to do that. Do I have any insight on the Amazon gate? Absolutely not. Eldeleth with a resub! One more month and we got a dozen of donuts. We also have no music because I have the music turned down. There we go. There we go. Anyway, this is my main on Ithil. She's level 86. And when last we left her Friday on the official Lotro stream channel, we were in Wildermore trying to find out what happened to Thrym Redbeard. His fiance thinks he's alive. We all kind of think he's dead. Oh man. Elda's not feeling well. Everybody in chat, if you are the praying type or if you are the sending vibes type, whatever your method of helping someone feel better, do send those feelings, those prayers, those kindnesses to Eldeleth. Alright. I am favorite of Elrond because he's cute. Alright. Oh man, it's nice having my mouse working. Hobbit presents! Holy crap, I need to do clean my inventory out too. I got a potion of rapid crafting. Nice. Which I could probably use on this character, but you know. I wonder what would happen if you took a potion of rapid crafting and combined it with the VIP boost. Wouldn't that be cool? Speaking of the VIP boost, by the way, let us do the thing here real quick. Wait a minute. Let me do something real quick. Zoop. Use that too. Alright. We are going to do a quick port to Meeny Pinsatini. Let's go to a premium house. One of my premium houses. TD! So right now, if you are in Lotro, you can go to Ales and Tales on Landreval, which I believe is in full swing right now. Which of my houses? Oh, I only have one premium house now, but I didn't actually want to go here. I wanted to go... Why am I doing this? I should just ride my war steed. Alright, I'm gonna play for a little bit and then... Maybe not too much longer. I mean, it's 9:30, and I did start a little bit early, so... Should I talk to you? Well, I can at least clean some of this crap out. Let's put the craft... I should just mail these to my alts, but I'm lazy. Crafting recipes. I only have a few slots in my inventory that's not booked solid. What's even worse is if we do transfer over to Honor, my Honor shared storage is full of 250 items already. So I'm going to have to do some serious inventory management on this account. Gosh. So Ed will be happy. We've just done inventory management. We could do crafting. There's the subscriber jug, and there is the town services. And that just basically pulls a UI that you can find any of these things anywhere you are. So, good times. However, I don't have any task items on my person. So we can't do task items. However, we need to get back to Wildermore. So, where are we going to travel to get us to Wildermore? 21st is always a good place to go. Amazon had a sale on pencils, so Elda bought pencils. Elda bought pencils. Like this is a surprise that Elda bought pencils. Okay. Okay, we are going go to Snowborn. Actually, no, we can go straight to Forlaw. Nice. So we can defeat orcs in the woods of the Witchshaws, or we can try to convince Cinnaberg to accept the loss of her fiancé. Loss of her fiancé. So sad. Anyway, let's see. Oh, she's right here. How fortunate. She will not abandon Thrym when he needs our help. Garwig will thank me when I return. And together we shall drive away Norzum. She will not obey. You know, in many medieval times, that a lady would disobey, she'd get beaten. Shame. Shame! Let's go ride the war steed and hopefully not Rivendell off the bridge. Yeah, Catrion, I'm also interested to see what he thinks about it, because I'm obviously not doing the full Quarry thing. I'm just really wanting to get this character into the West Amnet and play through that content and get her to level cap. And also to see how the storied tales play through, because I haven't done that on any character yet. So I want to see how that goes. I figured I'll get to them before Corey does, right? And Rick, you might be, if you're still here. I don't know if you're still here. It doesn't matter. It does, but it doesn't, you know. If he's still here. I'm playing a hunter, which is his favorite class. Alright. Quest from Roger the Stone and Nurza must wait. Must go to Beer Tour in her stead. If I worry about the people there. Yes. So take the North Road through the Witchshaws toward Beer Tour. Yeah, that's gonna go really well. I've already been there. Because I've already done the epic quest on this character, so my epic quest is waiting for me to be able to go into the West Amnet. So technically I could go straight to the West Amnet, but having met a certain character we're searching for at the wedding, I'm like, how did he survive? Wasn't he dead? Spoiler, he's not dead. Alright. Why can't I hear my horse? I don't have any sounds filtered. Oh, I think I know what it might be. I think I know what it might be. No, they're turned up. There we go. All right. So, what did y'all think of the presentation? I know Catriona got to watch it live. I don't know. I think it was a little bit more fun. Definitely a lot more. Well, hello. A lot more informal this time because, you know, I didn't have to pretend to be Poncy. Y'all thought I was being Poncy. Because I was very much in knowing that I was giving an academic presentation, right? So there was definitely a sense that I wanted it to be serious. Tomas has to go. Well, it was great to see you. It was great to see you at Mythmoot this weekend, dude. It's nice to put a face to the name, always. Hope to see you around, probably for class tomorrow night. We're not going to stop for Skarn. We're not stopping for Skarn, people. Okay, we're stopping for this Skarn. It's your third Mythmoot? You have that? Really? See, that's why I like this Mythmoot, because it's a case where now I can connect a lot of the names to the faces. So it's like somebody would say Serena, and I have no idea who they're talking about, but I know her face. And now I know Serena is this elegant lady who looks awesome even when she's just awoken and hasn't, you know, gotten her coffee in the morning or something. And she's like, oh, I know, you just look at me. I'm looking at her. I'm like, hush up, lady. You're fine. Yeah, it's all good. Moose. You just listening? You never presented? Well, we're still there. Where exactly are we going? The wrong way is because we have the wrong quest set as our quest focus. Durr. I'm actually going to hide this quest because I don't need it. We don't need the dailies, don't need all those other shenanigans. Let's focus on the story. And now, all of a sudden, I've got a song stuck in my head from Hamilton. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story? You glimpse a Rohirric banner on the road ahead. The city of Birtor is near. Have been defiled, does not bode well. Apparently you can shoot banners with crossbows and it works. I really don't like the sound effects the high elves make when those combat barks just sound wrong. They definitely do not sound like the elegant sound you'd expect out of a high elf, that's for sure. Does anyone yet live? I don't think so. Very little shit. This town belongs to Sauron now. I think not. Destroy flags outside of homes and then investigate homes. And kill dudes while we're here and take care of bodies. Sure. Toast! Alright. Well, there's no flag. Get some more XP. We're probably gonna ding tonight at the rate we're going. Wait, no, it's behind me. Pay attention, dude. Enemy flag! About to go down. Hey, Athea, how are you? How you doing? Tear it down. Investigate the first home. Been wrecked by the orcs. No survivors remain within. Oh no. He done got stabbed in the back. We'll deal with the flag in a second. Let's go see what's going on in here. This home is empty and cold. I don't think there's anybody here. Been thoroughly ravaged. So sad. Now we know why there's snow. You can get snow inside your... See, that's... Look, this is the blue snow that you can get in your landscape house in Rohan now. Bueller! Bueller! I don't know what you're talking about. Alright, we need... There's a corpse over here to deal with. A corpse over here. Alright. Dead villagers aren't much fun. So how's everybody's Monday been? We all been having a decent day? This home is empty. Okay. Let's go find the last house, which is apparently this way. I do have to say, I like the ice crystals. They're very pretty, but they're not very nice. It's a backpack. You're not gonna go for the backpack, right? Strawberry pick blackberries. Ooh. You can possibly make crumble. Yes. That sounds delightful. Examine a frosty gust of air. Okay. We're going around. We're taking the scenic route. Oh, look at that. It's almost cute. Well, apparently I'm going to shoot more orcs because... Oops. It looks like I should be able to click on it. But it's not tabbing to it at all. Running through doesn't do any good. There's one over there. We'll check that one out. Ah. Find out what caused the strange weather to appear. This one's still not clickable. Aha. Master AG! Hello! Alright. Eek! Run the other way! Run away! Run away! Oh, nice. This way! Orcs approach. Hi. Think you're strong? Yeah! There's waffles! Don't forget the syrup. Eek! These are behind you. Hi. Run east. Well, this is east. That's not where you can go. It says run north. Well, north is this way. Jump off the cliff quickly! You do not remember anymore. Only staggering blindly away, far away from Beer Tor. Head northeast away from Beer Tor to the tallest peak. Northeast toward the tallest peak. Well, that's this way. Ooh, heavy oak branches. Oh, discovered steeping. I don't think I've ever actually been to this place before. But there's a quest ring. You have discovered a cave. With a nice candle outside. And Rohirrim. What's going on? It's a fiberglass cave. What? There's Rohirrim in here. Hi. Four ladies and a dude. Uh-huh. That's the thing. It's too late for you, but not for the others. Interesting that she is the forge master. My son lies behind us dead in the snow where he fought with orcs so that the women could steal away. We lay him to rest. My sword is just here. I will not need any more. Lay with him. That's sad. Come on, pick up the sword. That's where I'm out for tribute to lay at her husband's grave. Aww. Oh, the wife of Alston's son, if she wishes to lay a tribute at her husband's grave. Got it. This pen, he gave it to me. I've treasured it always. If it's buried with him, it'll be part of me that lies with him. Aww. Very sad. Find the young man's body. Also very sad. Dragon dealer! What's up? Hey, some more oak branches. We can always use oak branches. Yeah, the women of Rohan will mess with you. Well, to be fair, when Tolkien was originally writing, Éowyn wasn't the only shield maiden that Rohan had. There were like a whole bunch of them. And then he finally whittled it away until there was only the one. Oh, no, no! There he is. He's over here. Amongst a whole bunch of other people who lay dead. Nope, those are orcs. We don't care about them. Oh, you got a new ember? Ooh, tell me about it. Is it yellow? Because I tried to get a yellow ember the other day, and as I was flying it back, it was low level. I only want it for its color. It was a male, and as I was flying it back to where I stupidly forgot my regular wyvern, we ran into something and they ate it. Greenish. Ooh, greenish. Oh, by the way, I do have an art raffle going on. Catriona has been the recipient of one of my drawings before, as has Master Ag, who was the inspiration for the art raffle, because he was the winner of the last art raffle I had. So I'm going to start doing them on a monthly basis, which means if you enter and win, I will work with you to craft a bust like head and shoulders of your character. So it'll be basically a facial portrait. So you want to zoom in on the face. Get really close and personal if you're taking a screenshot. If you're not the person who's... Okay. It should be fun. Okay, let's lay him to rest, as we do. We apparently bury a lot of people in this game. We'll talk to the Reforged lady in a second, because, hey, we're going back to where the cave is. Remember your failure at the cave. We could, theoretically, beat up on the snowy Grims, but I'm not too fussed about slaying Grims, but I will. Are you not? You're just a normal beast. But I do want the oak branches. Catch you later. Yeah, I will actually hop in a bit later after the stream. Because I need to go on a feed the animals run here shortly. Those feeding troughs have been amazing. But I have to go take my Parasaur out for raiding the things, so... I've also been working on rearranging my base a little bit too. I put down my fabricator again, and I still need to go in and I'm redoing the roof, well, the wooden ceiling / floor for the second tier, and I'm making it out of stone. All right, I may actually make the whole building out of stone. Ding! Don't fill themselves up. I also need to use this cryopod you gave me. I still haven't done that. And I still have those other 6 dragons. Yarrow. Ooh, Yarrow. Yeah. Pick Yarrow for a poultice. Collect snow for a poultice. Alright. Kill some snow cats. I can do that. I'm now level 87! Also, bear in mind is Lotro is under a VIP bonus XP thingamadigger. Oh, encroaching ice. Hey! Defeat snowy Grims. Well, we might as well take the quest if they attack us anyway. You, Snowstalker. We need you for the quest. I am a snowcat slayer. Wait, I need your pelt. Gimme. Thank you. I need some plants, some beautiful, beautiful plants. And I'm going to put this as a quest guide focus. The Skarn was there. Come on. So I have, this VIP bonus is available to all VIPs, including lifers, and this is on until the 13th. So not just the weekend, which is nice because I was busy this weekend. I hardly played any video games all weekend long. I was very sad. Alright. I'm looking... Well, I'll kill the Snowstalker since it's here. Okay. Can we shoot through the tree? I'm gonna try to have a good stream, Dragon Dealer. I'll also be hanging out in lore stream once I'm done. Because I should be moderating for lore, but I can't mod while I'm streaming. I'm not that awesome. Alright, where are we going? So, Yarrow in the snow is in the red area only. In Winter Night, the Snowstalker. So, Yarrow is up there. Osiren's gonna get some VIP bonus on the alts. I am probably gonna wind up, not necessarily with this character. I might actually hop on my hunter on Landy, and because she's level 126 and has been 126 for far too long. It's time to get her to 130. However, she needs some gear, like crazy needs some gear. I don't think I've gotten her any real gear since Mordor. So while she is indeed a hunter, and therefore OP, but not like OP like a Bjorning, she will need some serious gear to survive. However, what I do have is a stack of black keys, which I bought when they weren't on sale. Ooh, Yarrow. Crafting mats! Is this like regular Yarrow? Is this like quest Yarrow? Oh, hey, look at that. Oh, hey, look at that! Yes, please. That was hella better. Oh, look at that. I mean, the block rating is stupid, but the agility and vitality, heck yeah. Crit rating was nice, too. What is? Wheel vitality, not worth it. Rawr. Yeah. Decent gear. Yeah, I think this is probably... Yeah, it's Quest Yarrow. So you wouldn't have been able to use Yarrow from, like, you know, that you'd picked in a Lobby area or anything like that for this. Makes sense, I suppose. Blech. It's Rohan, where it makes you remember to actually loot the corpses. Yeah, crafting is a pain in the butt, especially in higher levels. Crafting was kind of okay in Mordor. Kind of okay. You could, like, get all the recipes just by grinding those signets. And those were tradable, at least account bound. And then the recipes were tradable. And then they went completely stupid with the Iron Hills stuff. It's like, oh, you had to be kindred before you can even buy the basic recipes? What the hell is that nonsense? Okay. Wait, I'm getting text from Corey. Oh, that was an hour ago. Okay, well, that's interesting. So, here's what's gonna happen. So Corey will be streaming his, will be streaming Exploring Lord of the Rings tomorrow, but will not be playing Lotro. No field trip. Grifflet, however, should be a go for Friday, because apparently he had to bribe his elder son to be able to use his computer to stream it, so good job. Yeah, I hate having to do dailies for crafting mats. Yeah, that's kind of dumb. Oh, wait, we're done with those. Bring the pellets, collect snow. We need to collect snow. Where are we going to get snow from? I mean... Well, we should find snow anywhere around here. Oh, wait. Are those things the snow? Or do I get the snow off the snowy Grims? Ah! Fly by Angel! Hello! Thank you for the follow, dear lady. How are you? Dragon Dealer was just in telling me about this new green Ember Wyvern you guys got. Whoa, hello. Okay, Grims are terrible. Where is there snow to collect? Because the Grims aren't the source of the snow that I need for the quest. Maybe it's up on this hill. Was it down in this one? It's a goat. Yep, I'm a streaming. Causing trouble. How are you, lady? Having fun? I still have... Oh, fresh note. Duh. I have not yet found myself a tech thingy. A tech Quetzal. I am going to find one! I'm also in the middle of rebuilding my base, and we also need to hatch the remainder of those eggies. I need to decide what to do with all of my crystal wyverns, because I really have too many of them. So I need to decide whether I want to get rid of them or just park them. But I'm also working on trying to get the, what's the thingy-majigger? The cryo fridge set up and working the electricity, so I'm learning how to do electricity, and I don't know how yet. You're looking for text so far, nothing. I think what we're probably going to have to wind up doing is taking out the non-tech Quetzals, and hopefully one will hatch or spawn a tech. Take him out. I want to see this green ember you guys found, though. I haven't seen a green one in a long time. I did see one a while ago. It looked like a Christmas tree, quite frankly. And the last time I looked, there were a pair of 100 plus tropicals close to the trap, and there were a couple of 100 plus bloods as well, if you wanted a couple of those. Just normal colors, though. Nothing really fun and unusual. She's camo? Ooh, I want to see this. I'll be in a bit later after I'm done streaming. And, you know, get up and get a snack and stretch my legs and feed the cats before they yell at me. Alright. Where is she? She's right there! She's right next to you, dude! Though that kind of hints at the whole thing with Theoden dying without knowing that Eowyn was nearby. Which, in the movies, was not how they did it. But besides, I also have to go on a Parasaur run to go get some berries for my trough, so probably take my berry out for a ride to get him some more fish. Fishy, fishy. Okay, father and daughter-in-law. Oh, the child that grows in you must survive, must learn to get along with the others. Oh dear. Family drama. Oh no, try to rouse the Thane. Oh. He is dead. Head north behind the mountain to find a place to rest. Alright, we're going to ignore this. And we're going to go follow this. Love the blue fire. Yep, that's where the nickname comes from. Druid's Fire is blue. It's a reference to the Terry Brooks Shannara series, particularly the second book in the series called Elfstones of Shannara, where to my eyes, the main character of the book, Alanon the Druid, wielded this blue fire. It was called Druid's Fire as a weapon. Oh, hi. Oh, this isn't so bad. You can actually see the grass here. Wild foxglove. Where am I supposed to be going? To this glowy thinking spot. It's called Thinking Spot. A fine view of the oh, look at that! Let's go take a look at that, boys and girls. That is the Kuthstan. And there is Limelight Gorge over there, a place of many monsters that you don't want to fight. And behind this hill would be the lovely town of Stangard. Alright, let's use the thinking spot. Mourning the Fallen. Oh, stand to think at the close edge. Whoa! God dang it. Look out at the green hills of the Great River untouched by Norzum. Look at this. Screenshot. Look at all these people who have died. But have they all died? You are filled with the overwhelming grief and anger at the plight of Wildermore. The sound of women's voices from below startle you from your reverie. Find the women whose voices you've heard. What? What? Come here. Come here. You howl, you come visit. Say hi to Angel. Angel, this is Thief Kitty. He's like, why did you pull me up here? He's my stream kitty. And yes, he does have his own Twitch emote. He's a butthead. He's not invisible anymore. I know, right? He's not the invisible kitty. He's a noisy kitty. So Angel has heard Thief Kitty before when we've been hanging out in Ark. And they've heard my open mic and they've heard the invisible kitty. He would sit here for hours if I let him. Just like this, because he's happy. He's comfortable. He is being cuddled, and he's cuddled up against something that's warm. Alright, I'm gonna go find the quest. He does have a chair right next to mine, so he normally does snooze on it. But he does like to come see what I'm talking about. It's like when I'm playing video games, he's like, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? And then he'll meow, and then I'll bring him on camera. Right? Meow. My invisible kitty. There's women's voices below you. Where are they compared to me? We're heading kind of in the right direction. And suddenly heroes falling out of the sky. If this is an escort quest, I'm going to be pissed. I hate escort quests. Others went towards the Bale with madness. Others that went with the Thane's family who were pursued by orcs. We believe this is the safest way. Alright, I gotta go back to Randomald. Alright. Toothless Sage, how are you doing this fine Monday evening? Let's ride a war steed because it's faster. Up the hill. Hey, look, it's Garn. Yes, I was the one who was helping you out on Lotra Stream during Elda's show when she was helping somebody else, so we were multitasking, splitting the efforts. Welcome to the party. It's madness! The forest is haunted! Well, we know it's in the middle of the forest. We met him. It was a leaf lock. Alright, must leave to find the others. Hope you would be able to see us this. Ah! Thank you for the follow. You got stuff sorted out. Awesome! Alright. She cannot travel far while pregnant, and the other women do not seem to be able or willing to care for her in her time of need. Yet you must see to the others who fled the massacre. They may be much need as well. What is to be done? Smack these two women around! Let them come for us. Actually, you know, we're going to open the forge. And we're going to reforge some stuff since you're here and so helpful. There we go. Reforge this other bridle. And do the same thing. Reforge the sword. Oh, press onward cooldown always, because I never use Beneath Notice at all. Reforge my crossbow. Quick shot damage! A non-useless skill. Gotta shut down. Be safe out there, Sage. Because holy crap, storms are no bueno. What? Totally isolated from the other woman. Dangerous problem for a pregnant woman who must survive the harsh winter. We have a horse. Shouldn't we take her to Forlaw? What's your problem, lady? The nobility? Huh. Oh, the Thane's family pampered her. Now she must fend for herself. So, these women are from Bir Tor, and they're used to taking care of themselves. And she's not from Bir Tor, not used to taking care of herself. So, these two are being bitches. Yeah! I get to roar at them! Oh, wow, this is the best quest ever. That's why. Our little town from the south from some fancy city. Oh. Oh. Strange spirits will think themselves better unless we always survive. Let me roar. Alright. Meet the woman at the grave. Take as much time as you need. Alright, let's go. Oh, it's nighttime, so it's pretty outside. So I can chuck you off the cliff, ladies. That's why. I'm gonna boot you into the next moon. Aha! Self-Lord is schooling y'all. Okay, so she at least will be nice to the girl for the dead thing's sake. Talk to Frithwin. Can I slap her? Hey, you know, I can. I think I can. Do I have... Whoop. Aw, damn it. I don't think I have fish slap on this character anyway. Ah, whatever. There's somebody supposed to be here. I think the quest broke. Uh-oh, I think the quest broke. She ain't here. Well, that's unfortunate. Because I don't get to do this one again. Let's try this again. The game is slightly confused, I think. Let's leave the instance, but before I try to talk to her again, I will delete the quest and try it again. Abandon that quest because I don't need it. Alright. Defeat the High Knolls Blizzard. That actually sounds like a fun quest to do, just for giggles. I have to wait 5 minutes. We'll wait 5 minutes. I'll catch up on the Twitters and see if my Twitters has been going nuts. Alright. I see why I got a text from Corey because somebody asked him 3 hours ago, is this the week that Corey's away? That is, will they be exploring an academy this week? And then his son Nicholas replied, no, he sees on my computer this week to stream Lotro. And Corey's reply to that was, I was going to go with bribing you to allow me to use it. So now I'm kind of wondering what kind of bribe Corey could give Nicholas to borrow his kid's computer. Nicholas is not the one who streams Pokemon. Nicholas is the elder brother. Alright, let's go catch up on the Discords. It's month of the chicken. Ah. Still waiting. 2 minutes and change. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? My friend Mark, one of the guys who helps run the video gaming track at DragonCon, posted a picture today of pork shumai meatballs with ponzu dipping sauce and snap peas, and it looks tasty. Xbox. I don't have an Xbox. I have a PlayStation. It's currently sitting over there collecting dust. And there's a joystick sitting on top of it. Xbox for the kids. I don't know. I don't know if they have an Xbox or a PlayStation. Hi, kitty. Hello, Thiefy. Hello, invisible kitty. That's how you get your PC from them. Well, Angel, Professor Corey, the Tolkien professor, actually prefers to use a Mac. Unfortunately, Lotro and Mac are not friendly. They're not on friendly terms. Right now, the only way you can play Lotro on a Mac is if it's an older Mac that has not been upgraded to Catalina, you can just use the current Lotro Mac client, which is actually a wine client, a client for wine. If you have upgraded to Catalina, you're screwed unless you choose to run a Windows partition within Parallels or Boot Camp or the like. Unfortunately, Corey's Mac is now a couple of years old, and he's been having what we believe to be hardware issues with its graphics card. Corey hates PCs with a flaming passion, so... yeah, we've suggested Corey just get a goddamn PC. Can you tell a university president to do anything? No. Come on, we can't even get him to start his shows on time. Or to end them on time. Alright, let's try this again. Let's talk to Frithwith. Alright. Let's try to do this quest again. You're the worst of them. Hey, I do have fish slap. I know, whoever scheduled him for an hour poetry, that was, yeah, it was silly. Yeah, I think they kind of knew. Come on, they knew. Alright. Will you excuse us, Radmold? Frithwin is very light-footed if she could walk over the... Well, I guess there was the stone there, not the branches. So the news came out today that the leader of Smash Mouth, they had a concert today, and the front man said, "We're all here together tonight. Fuck that COVID shit." And then Eric Goldman, the media journalist, goes, "Come die for Smash Mouth." And I replied, "Time to rename that song All Sick." I'm rude. There we go. She's now here. I think probably what happened was I was trying to move around in the first time I tried this, and it probably bugged the quest. Oh, so Frithwin loved him. They all loved him. And they all thought he would marry what's-her-face. And they're all pissed because he stopped flirting with them. Oh, man. Wow. How about you? Oh, ow. And he let me think so until he brought Ranmald here. I will never like her. I see that I was not good enough for him. You're a dummy. She'll help her and see that the son of Sealston, my future Thane, will survive this fell winter. I swear it on his grave. Alright. I'm still a troublesome meddler. I will take that! I will be a troublesome meddler. Because, you know, the Doctor was often referred to as a troublesome meddler. And, you know, the Doctor is probably my favorite character of all time. Excepting maybe Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maybe. Yay! I am now an ally of Wildermore. $15 Lotro points. That's not shabby. And now I get to be a kindred to the people of Wildermore. I don't want to be kindred with these people. I just want to do the quest and get out of here. Alright. Collect firewood. Do not try. This would actually be a really great quest to be a burglar for, that's for sure. Access cooking supplies and weapons. Okay. Catch some of the goats? We're going goat chasing, people! This will be fun! Yeah, Tuba. Oh, and you know, the sad thing is that bar is closing. You know, the Adventure Pub, we are sad about this. We are super sad about this. That's, you know, that's the sad thing when the landlord is a skeeving git. Okay. Let's go get some firewood. Let's go get some Hi! Thiefy. Kill him is here. Now. I get goats to follow me around. That's awesome. Meh. You have your claws in my shoulder. You have that right. And this, boys and girls, is one of the 2 reasons why I often wear a hoodie indoors. Hey, Angel, aren't these a lot easier to tame than the ones in Ark? Okay, where's the cave? Come on, goats. Totes my goats. Easy to find. Yeah, no kidding. But I need to go make some more blue sheep. Do you want some blue sheep, Angel? I can get you guys some blue sheep. The goats have arrived safely. Now they're goats. You get goats. You get goats. Apparently I get all these goats following me around. That's gonna be awesome. Wanna go? Wanna go, Thiefy? Meh, meh. Ouch. Thief? Why do I still have goats? Hi. You big dummy. Alright. Let's go down to Beer Tour. So we always like jumping down cliffs. Hi. These goats are not exactly going to help my ability to be stealthy. I don't remember being up there. I mean, Forla's over there. Grimnisberg? Huh. Well, apparently I've been there before because I've got it flagged on my map. Sarg's going to bed. Night, Sarg. Be good. Come on, little goats. I lost my goats. Climb the high peak to the west to look for survivors. Okie dokie. It's actually 11 o'clock now. We might actually call it right here. We'll go look for survivors and see where we go from there. Gonna pick up some scarn. Where are we going? Where are we going? Looks like we're probably going over there. No, we got a horse for that. A swift steed. Tuba's going to bed too. Have a good night, good sir. Delayed reaction. A flocking spy. Yeah. Well, this is the hill to the west. But we're supposed to go somewhere up top to look for survivors. Except the arrow points that... here we go. The hungry paths. Well, that's new. Oh, Roger, you spot a small home and smell a cooking fire. Oh. Well, let's first of all deal with the critters that are coming after us. We're gonna ignore that quest. Iglaf. Okay. Just to the southwest, not long ago, shortly after the sacking of Beer-Tor, not a good sign. Provoke, flee under the roof of those trees. Balewood is haunted, you see. Those people need help, if you ask me, but none are brave enough to venture there. Watch out for the crows, they're new, but check the goats! What kind of goat examining are we talking about here, kids? Come on, look at these. Let's find the owner of the camp down. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Alright, let's go see who owns the campfire. It's probably gonna be bad guys. Oh, wild goat corpses. Is that the examining? Yes, it is. Died of starvation. With all of these cats around, they're dying of starvation? Gonna ignore that quest as well. At least you don't have to turn that one in up that guy, so. Alright. Let's keep going down the hill. Yes, before we go careening off the landscape. Doesn't quite look so bad from up here. Alright, we're gonna go this way, down and around. Oh yeah, that's right. There's Hjorns here. Oh, and hey, there's a war band that we're gonna ignore. Scary. Oh hey, we found a camp. How nice. Alright, let's turn this quest in right here. Okay. Let's ignore that. Alright, so we're going to leave it at a cliffhanger. It's all creepy as hell in the Balewood, but the name is, I mean, it's all blue. It's creepy. So, nice. Nice little blind there, kids. Alright, we've had a fun time. We went over a whole lot of games that use Middle-earth as their basis. Always kinds of fun. Played some of the games. Sorry about the terrible sound coming from the Wii. It was working fine earlier. You know what it is. In the meantime, I will be back on Wednesday as usual So we're gonna have fun tomorrow night. I will be hanging out with Professor Corey, and there will not be a field trip or Lotro tomorrow night for Exploring Lord of the Rings. It will strictly be in Discord and in GoToWebinar and on Twitch. So that means he's going to talk longer because he doesn't have to do a field trip. He's gonna talk all night long. For those who don't know, Professor Corey was up until 3 in the morning Saturday night, and then was up in time to give the final presentations and stuff at Mythmoot Sunday morning, because where did that guy get his energy? I have no idea. So I'll be around. I won't be in DDO again tonight because I have already logged in. Hardcore League will be down tomorrow for its upgraded stuff, so I hope it doesn't have the Wayfinder treatment. Otherwise, I think there'll be a lot of hardcore players who are going to be pissed! In the meantime. And also, I will be hanging out in Sapiens' stream Tuesday night while he builds a Lego, because that's what he does. However, I am going to go hang out with Devilor. Killam and TD are about to go cause trouble either in one of the two games. TD, of course, has been running through DDO like it's on fire or something. Is there somebody I could send you to? Somebody I could send you to? Let me see. I don't do a lot of raiding anymore, simply because raiding doesn't help the other streamers' numbers. So we used to raid people all the time to help them. I would say go. Actually, we are gonna raid somebody. We're gonna go raid the official Lotro channel because Doug Glendower's still on, so we're gonna send you on over to them. So everybody, you know the usual. Be good, and if you can't be good at it. I'll see you on Wednesday.